Hi everyone, today we're going to be doing another subscribers candles test and review, and these ones are coming from Hand with a Heart is the name of the company. And yeah, we're going to dive right in. Hopefully there's a letter or two in there we can learn a little bit more about the company before we just start checking out the products. And if you're new to these, actually if you're new to this channel, my name is Wade. I'm the owner of Black Tie Barn, and on this channel we talk about making candles, selling candles, we do tutorials, we do demonstrations, we do tips and tricks and reactions and reviews like this. So if any of that interests you, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Give this video a thumbs up. Now, if you are brand new to videos like this, where we do a review of other subscribers' candles, they were sent in voluntarily. We're gonna unbox it together. We're gonna talk about the label, the jar, the wax, the wick, things that we can visually see. I'm gonna make some guesses on what I think we're working with. And then at the end, we'll see depending on what's in this box. Sometimes there's a second letter where it tells me what the products actually are. So it's a little fun way to kind of fact check myself and my guesses. But hopefully you guys enjoy these type of videos. Let me know in the comments if you do, and I'm ready to go ahead and get started. Before I open this box and get everything out, I just want to say again, thank you for your patience on waiting for this. You, along with several others, have been waiting a long time because I got so backed up on these reviews. As I was taking these reviews in, I was letting everyone know that I was really backed up, and I had no idea how soon I would get to it. It could be months and months, but I'm doing my best to catch up. So thank you all for being patient and waiting around. All right, guys, we have a ton of products here. So obviously I'm not gonna be able to go through every one of these on this video. I will be still burning them and testing them and checking them out privately, and I'll try to summarize those results here in the video. But I'm gonna focus on the ones that are different and the ones that are similar and maybe just a different fragrance. Then I won't go into detail on each of those, but I will give my best to kind of show you what we have here, this assortment, but there is a lot to get to. So let's go ahead and start with the information that was sent first, and I'll push these to the side. All right, let's get to the letters. Now, as I suspected, we do have two letters here. This one says open later. So again, this is the one that's going to reveal some extra information that I'm gonna make some guesses about. So I'm gonna go ahead and set this aside. We'll get to this at the very end of the video. But I'm gonna start with this first letter and I will summarize it for you. The maker's name is Lucille. She's the creator of Hand with a Heart. It's funny that she said she actually had to hold herself back from sending me all her products, but she still sent quite a few, everything she could fit in a box. She hasn't been making for very long. She did mention that even early on, she was able to get 3 stockists though, which is great. So she's in 3 different stores, and she's planning to try to expand that. She's not doing a ton of sales from her website yet, but that's really normal starting out. In fact, that can just take a lot of time. Who knows, by the time I got to this, she might be in many more stores by now. But a lot of products here. And then lastly, I just want to say I appreciate all the kind words she put in the letter. Just a lot of thank yous for helping her out along the way and answering questions and the content here on the channel. So no problem at all. I'm glad that you have enjoyed the videos and that you sent these candles in. So let's go ahead and dive in. So we're going to start with these wax melts, and I'm not going to spend a ton of time on the wax melts. I say this in every video where there are wax melts, is I just want to check them out, but I'm not going to do extensive testing on them unless something really sticks out. So if they've got really poor cold throw or something that just really stands out, I'll mention that. But otherwise, I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on them. They smell great. They've got these little bitty kind of dried lavender herbs. This is a white sage and lavender. And not only does it smell great, but they look great too. She's got them shaped in the heart. And then she's even got a little how to use a wax melt care on the back, just like a candle care, but wax melts. Nice touch. Since we just did a white sage and lavender, there is a large white sage and lavender candle here. So I'm gonna go ahead and open that candle first. Okay, all right, this is cool. All right, so we've got a square glass jar here, and then a like cork, almost like a cup holder engraved with her logo. It's not a snug fit, they just sit on top, but it looks really nice. It's unique, it's unique. All right, cool. So we've got a half poured standard candle. And then on top, we've got these nice little lavender flower embeds. And as long as these have been sitting, they've still been holding up really, really well. Now, these embeds are gonna make it kind of tough for me to figure out what kind of wax we're using. So I'm gonna do my best, and I'm gonna kind of poke around in here a little bit too. And the wick type could help me kind of determine what wax it is as well. One thing I do know is it does mention soy wax on the label. That doesn't mean it's 100% soy wax though. It could just be a soy blend. It might take me several of these before I decide to make a guess on the type of wax. These wicks do look like tiny little HTP wicks for me, like HTP 43s or 42s or something like that. I'm gonna go ahead and set this aside and we'll check out another one. Actually, I'm gonna go with one of these little ones. This is Sea Minerals. All right, cool. So even the little ones have little embeds. So this is cute. Even in this smaller version of these larger square ones, it has the embed on top. This also appears to be a small HDP, maybe a CD wick, but I'm gonna still shoot, I don't know. This smells good. It's nice and refreshing. I actually prefer the other one a little bit more for some reason. Normally I prefer ocean fragrances over lavender, but I like the other one a little bit better. But really cute. I'm anxious to burn these. I want to see what happens, you know, as you kind of melt these embeds down. But I'm also really impressed that these embeds have held up this long. Cactus flower and jade. That's cool. It's even got a cactus on the top. This is my favorite fragrance of them. I just, I really love this fragrance. I always have. It's so cute. It's a really good job. So she's definitely has a lot of fun playing with these wax molds and the embeds. Rose petals. I'll bet everything I got that we've got a rose on top. There we are. I would say this is the best looking one so far. It filled up a little bit higher, and then the rose is just kind of fitting perfectly on top. So this is my favorite visual one. It smells like your standard rose fragrance. The color, this is my favorite looking one so far, although I prefer the scent from the cactus flower and jade. I'm gonna check all these out, and then I'll come back and make a guess at the wax and the wick. We have another cactus flower and jade, but a slightly different embed on top, and I like this one better. So this is the actual cactus flower, which I like a little bit better. The other one stood out so high above the jar. This one, it looks a little bit more appropriate. Bamboo and coconut. You know, wasn't a huge coconut fan, but over time it has grown on me. But I love bamboo. Oh yeah, this one's really, really good. I'll say this is second to the cactus flower and jade. Also, the embed work on this one is great as well. So this one and the rose one are my two favorite embeds. Really, really cute looking candles here. One more small one. It's another white sage and lavender, but a single lavender rose on this one maybe. So just a smaller version of the one we looked at before. You've done a really good job though with these embeds. I mean, they're time consuming. You got to be really particular with them, and they look great. They're unique. They're fun. Nice work. Nice work. All right, we got two big ones left. Rose petals. We already know what that one looks like. So I'm guessing this is gonna have 3 rose petals. There we go. Oh, look, she threw me for a loop there. Not 3 roses, just one larger one. And the embed work on this one is perfect. Perfect. Very nicely done. Smells great, looks great. These held up very, very well too. And then lastly, peppermint and eucalyptus. All right, let's take a look. Love the label on this one. Huh, it doesn't smell exactly like I thought it would smell. A little bit of peppermint. I don't smell a whole lot of eucalyptus, but eucalyptus is also pretty soft a lot of times, so that's not really shocking. Great looking candle though. We went with a double wick on this one. Still haven't decided on the wicks or the wax type specifically yet. Now this one does have a little bit of dried herbs on the top. All right, so I want to talk about that for just a sec. I know the dried herbs make things look really nice and interesting and unique and fun. Personally, I try to stay away from the dried herbs. I know most of the time you're probably going to end up fine, but there is a significant higher risk of fires and issues, safety issues, when you're using dried herbs or anything on the top of the candle that is flammable. So that's my only suggestion so far really about the products, is just to avoid using the dried herbs. In my opinion, it's just not worth the risk. But it's totally up to you. I will say that even recently though, the National Candle Association has released more warnings about not using these kind of materials in your products, just because the risk of fires and other hazards. So I'll just leave it at that. But my suggestion would be just to nix the dried herbs. I just don't think it's worth it. That being said, it looks great, smells great. I think your candles speak for themselves already though. With the embeds, the colors you're using, everything just looks great. I just don't think you need the extra dried herbs in there, personally. I've noticed that this is the first one that did not have embeds and you had colored the wax, so I like that. You are able to still add the appeal and the intrigue. They all still look like they're part of the same collection. So it's a really nice job. You've done a good job with your brand and your theme here. Everything looks and smells fantastic. All right, so the time has come. I've got to make a decision here. I've got to think about what kind of wax you're using and the wicks you're using. Part of this is me having a little bit of experience with a lot of different waxes and wicks. And part of this is using just some deductive reasoning about other things that your products are giving hints. For example, I noticed that these are made in California. So I'm going to automatically assume that you might be using some local suppliers. California has a few, but there's a couple big ones. And so that is one thing that I'm thinking about when I'm just trying to decide on what products you're using or materials you're using. It says soy wax, and this soy doesn't have really any frosting going on. It actually has kind of a soft, almost like a parasoy feel, like a paraffin and soy blend. There is a particular soy wax, I should say, that is marketed as a soy wax, but it actually has a little bit of paraffin in it. In fact, almost all soy waxes do. If you weren't aware of that and you're a new maker, a lot of things that are sold as soy wax are or a coconut soy or whatever, a lot of them still have paraffin or something else in it. It's almost like a stabilizer or an enhancer. Anyways, that's a discussion for another time. The point I'm trying to get at, and what I'm trying to say here, is that the makers from California, they're using a soy wax that has more of a parasoy characteristic. If I had to take a stab at this, I would say they're using Soy 10 from California Candle Supply. It's called Soy 10. It's sold as a soy wax, but there is a small amount of food grade paraffin in it. Again, not a problem, totally normal. A lot of waxes are like that. But that would be my guess, because if this was a true soy wax and didn't have any paraffin in it, or any coconut or apricot or anything else in it, you would know, you could tell it was a soy wax. There would be a different texture, a different look on the surface. There'd be some other visual clues and textural clues. But that's not what I'm getting here. I am going to say my guess is a Soy 10. It goes by some other names depending on where you're buying it from. But again, I'm assuming they're buying this from California Candle Supply because it's a local supplier to them. They sell it as Soy 10, I believe. So that's what I'm gonna go with. Sometimes I'm really good with these guesses and I'm really close, and other times I'm not. So I might be right on the money, I could be way off. Now, these embeds are a little bit of a giveaway too, though, because they do have almost like a sort of soy, slight ashy look to them, but not like your other soys, and it's not hard enough for some of your hard pillar paraffin waxes. So yeah, I'm confident, pretty confident in the Soy 10. There could be something else with it too, though. I don't know. That's asking me to perform a miracle. I don't know. All right, let's talk about the Wicks. I had changed my mind as we had kind of gone through this. I was stuck between HTP wicks and CD wicks. Both work well with soy or paraffin waxes, but soy blended waxes, people tend to flock a little bit more towards CD wicks. They're not my favorite. I don't like them as much, but they are a little bit more common. And so I originally thought HTP 41s, 52s, something like that, whatever that range is. And then I've changed my mind a little bit to CD wicks. I don't really know the sizing though. They're kind of all over the place based on what size container we're talking about. But if I had to say CD4 to 6, I don't know, depending on the jar, these could easily still be HTP wicks though. My guess for now is going to be CD wicks, although I'm not sure on the sizing. However, after we burn these, which is what we're about to do, and test them out, I might change my mind again, because I'm usually better at detecting the difference between an HTP and a CD in the way it burns. So we will see. Enough talking, let me get into testing, and we'll talk about the results. Howdy everyone, I am back, and this one took a while to get through all the testing. There was 3 large candles and 6 small ones. Fortunately, the 6 small ones all burned pretty much the exact same. We're gonna tackle all of those at the same time. And then we're gonna talk about the 3 larger ones because each one was different. One was a single wick, there was a 2 wick, and there was a 3 wick. That is what we're gonna do in this part of the video. First thing I gotta say is, as I just mentioned, this one took a little longer to get through. So I don't really remember exactly all my guesses and thoughts from the first part of the video. So I'll rehash what I think now after testing them. And if that changed or not, I'm not sure. And then we'll wrap this video up with opening the letter, the open after letter, which allows us to, if the camera can see it, this is the letter we'll open up at the end to kind of tell us exactly what we're using and see if I was right or wrong. Thanks for sticking around so far. Let's get into these. As I mentioned, we're gonna start off with all these little ones first. Now, each of these were filled about 2/3 of the way with a little embed on top. And the embeds ranged from leaves to cactuses to seashells. I think you guys saw them in the earlier part of the video. Now, one thing for anyone that's using embeds or considering using embeds that you have to think about when you're making candles is to make sure that the volume, the total fill in wax, still does not exceed the top of the candle. And that can be difficult to do sometimes when you're using embeds. And that is because sometimes they're poking up above the candle. So if you remember the one with the cactus on top, the cactus was sticking up. And it looks like it's probably fine, but you don't want that cactus to melt down and then overflow the candle. So make sure that the total fill of the candle is still under the top overflow line of the candle, if that makes any sense. So you still want to use the same amount of wax to do these. It's just that some of it is made in an embed on the top. All right, so with that being said, I had one concern with one of the candles kind of having an issue with that, and that was the one with the cactus up above, but I can tell you it did not. It burned just fine. So that one had a less of a fill of the normal wax so that there's a little bit more room for the cactus, or at least that's what it appeared to be when it was made. Not entirely sure, but either way, it burned fine. All of them did. No overflow, so all that was good. I also liked the difference in color on these. So you had a kind of a normal white layer across the board, and then you had a different color for the embeds on top. And then when it melted down, it actually left that different color on the top, which was cool, and ended up looking like a different layered candle. So those are all pluses as well. Now, my suspicion here is that the embeds were made from a different kind of wax, just because you want the embeds to be a little firmer, a little harder. So those are often made with like pillar waxes. I don't know what wax. I mean, there's just too many to choose from. It could be any kind of, I'm assuming for the most part, these are soy-based candles, but that still leaves a lot of options. So, you know, I really don't know on the embeds. I don't even know if I guessed before, and I'm not gonna try to guess on that now. There's just so many options. However, I don't think it's the same as the wax below. All of them burned really well. A couple of them got kind of hot at one point, but only if I burned them for a few hours. And again, these are small containers. They're only about 1.5 inches across. They're meant to not be burned for that long, and they're meant to be burned in small rooms. So I started off burning them in small rooms just to see what kind of scent throw we were getting. And we were getting really good scent throw with all of these in the small room. So I wanted to push the limits, and I moved them to kind of a smaller to middle size room, almost like a bedroom instead of like a bathroom or something. And the hot throw in those was good as well. So I would definitely say that these candles could go in a small room, even like a bedroom. Even though they're small, they did a really good job with the scent throw. The fragrances themselves were good, but I was more impressed with the scent throw even from these little guys. These could have been HTP or CD or CDN wicks, to be honest, just because of the way they look and the way they burned. I'm leaning more towards either an HTP or a CD though, just because they're more common and because they curled a little bit more. Most people with soy waxes are using CD wicks, so I'm just gonna assume it's CD wicks. I don't really know the size, 2, 3, 4, something in that range. I'm actually feeling the jars when I'm testing these as well to make sure they don't get too hot to the touch. And for the most part, they did really good, even on these small ones. Now, a couple of them, they started to curl a lot back into the wax, and that is a problem with wicks that curl a lot. It's also a problem when the candle is lit for too long. So that's one thing to be kind of weary of. However, I would say across the board, these were wicked all about appropriately. I think they were all about the right size. I did not have any issues with any of these small candles. These little guys are often sometimes just not great candles. They're more like novelties or samples and things. These were actually designed and made to still perform well, which I appreciate, and they did. Let's move on to the big ones. So we're gonna start with that pink rose petals candle first. That was the single wick. Now, this was the one I was kind of assuming probably wouldn't burn that well just because it is one wick in a large vessel and it's a square shaped vessel. Those are harder to get good wicking in general anyways. And one wick in that large of a vessel with soy-based waxes can be challenging sometimes. So my guess here is it's just a really large CD wick, and it burned okay. Actually, it did better than I kind of thought it was going to. However, I still don't think it was an optimal burn. We got quite a large mushroom on it. It started to lean quite a bit. I did have to kind of pull it back to center a couple times. Overall, it did a pretty good job for one wick. I think it's kind of the best you can hope for and best you can ask for a jar this size, because we're talking about a 3.5 inch jar, somewhere in that range, and squared, so those corners sometimes don't always catch up, and it did pretty good. I wouldn't suggest using one wick in this personally, and that's probably why she sent me 3 styles, one with 1 wick, one with 2, and one with 3 in the same jar, just to kind of see, gather my feedback on which one I think was best. This would have been my third choice, so I don't prefer the one wick as much as the others, but overall, it still did pretty good. The next one is the peppermint and eucalyptus. This was the green candle that had some of the dried herbs on top, and it was a double wicked candle. The first thing, elephant in the room, the dried herbs. I probably talked about this in the first part of the video. I'm not a huge fan of it. They look cool and they're catchy, but there's just more and more issues happening with these things causing problems with fires starting. There's a lot of warnings from the NCA, National Candle Association, about using them as well. I did not have any issues with it, but I still would recommend not using them. That aside, the fragrance on this was really good. I would say this was probably the weakest of all the fragrances that were sent to me, but sometimes eucalyptus and peppermints can be soft. I have had some that were like overwhelming before on the peppermint side, but in general, these scents are always kind of soft, at least to me. As far as the way this one burned, this one at first seemed like it was going to not be enough, the 2 wicks. It left a little bit of hang up on the sides, and that hang up lasted, I would say, probably about half the jar. But then it eventually did start to catch up, and I would rather err on the side of safety and caution than I would with over wicking it. So I actually think that I would probably keep this wick choice if you're going to use 2 wicks. The only suggestion I would make is to bring the wicks in a little bit closer. They are very close to the sides. They're only about maybe a 1/2 inch away from the sides, but they're about 2 inches away from each other in the middle. So I would bring them in closer together, probably a quarter inch in, a quarter to a half inch in from each one towards the center. That will keep the heat more in the center, and then the surrounding heat will help still with all areas of the jar. With the current configuration with the wicks so close to the sides is it's really making two sides very hot, which not only is more dangerous, it also kind of neglects the other areas of the candle. So it's actually better to keep them a little bit closer. Last but not least is the white sage and lavender. This was the white candle that had the purple lavender embeds on top. Sometimes it can be tricky to wick for the embeds at the top, but still make sure it wicks well for the rest of the candle, or vice versa. So I don't know if it's a different wax, but if it is, really good job. And if it's not, well, it's still a really good job. The wick did good through the embeds. It's always a little, it always kind of burns a little funky sometimes with the embeds. Sometimes the flame can be a little taller than normal. It's not the most consistent optimal burn when you've got an embed on top, but it usually works itself out. And in this case, they did. And once it got through the embed, it burned even better. So back to the lavender, white sage and lavender candle. I'm torn between this and the 2-wick one on which one I would prefer. This one did a better job of getting all of the wax, and for the most part doing it safely. It had killer hot throw on it as well. Of course, the extra wick and extra melt pool, will help that. But either way, this one was very, very good. The only issue I had with this one was, once again, the wicks were too close to the edge of the jar. So they have like a triangle formation, which is great, but all of them were too close. Some of them almost even a quarter inch too close to the wall. That's just too hot. There are a few times that I could not touch that side of the glass. It was too hot, and I blew it out just to be safe. At one point, I thought it was going to be overwicked by just one size, like it was pretty close, but then it would do really good again. So it's sort of in between. I do think you could probably benefit by going down one size, and it might be perfect. It might literally be only thing you need to do. It's still good as it is, but if it were me, what would I do? I would test one size smaller on each of those wicks, and I think that might be exactly what you need. As of right now, I'd probably pick your 3-wick candle, assuming that you're going to go down one size. If that doesn't work for you, then I'd probably go back to the 2-wick candle. And then bring those wicks in a little bit closer as well. So I don't know how long you've been doing this, but you're doing a very good job. Wicking was really good. I mean, with all these elements going on, the wicking was almost spot on across the board. Good performance, good hot throw. Let me talk one more time, reiterate, I guess, my guesses here. On the type of wax, I remember you're being from California. There's Candle Science out there. There's California Candle Supply. There's a lot more than that too. There's plenty, but those two come to mind. I don't know of a wax that Candle Science sells that is a soy wax, which is what these candles say, but don't also look 100% like a soy wax. Which leaves me with cow wax. They've got a few that kind of do this. Soy tin is fairly popular for people starting out to try because they see some information on channels and groups and things about it. So like I said, if I had to pick one, I'd probably go with that. But this could also be just some kind of like a 6006 mixed with like 464. So kind of your own Parasoy mixture, because that's also what it feels like to me. I made some candles like that once with that combination, and it kind of reminded me of this. So yeah, one of those two would be my guess. And then I'll stick with my guess on the wicks of CD Wicks. All right, that's enough rambling. Let's get into the letter and see really how bad I might have butchered. Let's find out. Oh, well, I can tell you real quickly in nice big bold print without even having to read much that I did a good job on the guesses here because the wax is soy 10. Well, hold on. It says soy 10 with TW30. So that's probably what I was referring to earlier, where the wax is the most of the candle is one wax and then the embeds are a different wax. I would have not guessed TW30. That didn't even come to mind. So I got like half of this right, I guess. Soy 10 on the main wax. And I want to say that was fairly lucky guess though, but the embeds I did not know. I figured they were different. I didn't know the wax. The wicks for the candles are CD4s in the small candles. The big candle was a CD14 by itself. The double wick with 2 CD4s, and the 3-wick was 3 CD3s. So there you go. Soy 10 wax for most of the candle, TW30 for the embeds, and then CD wicks across the board with some various sizes there. Once again, thank you very much for sending these in. Thank you very, very much for your patience on this. I'm still working my way through a stack trying to catch up. So I appreciate all of your patience. and I appreciate all of you for watching this video. Definitely give your comrade here in the comments a thumbs up and a pat on the back, and show your support for just another member of your community. Hope you all enjoyed it. If you did, give this video a thumbs up by hitting the like button below. Please subscribe to the channel if you're not already, and double check because often subscriptions get removed randomly. With that being said, I'll see you all next time. Thanks.